My name is Elena Ramirez, and for 28 years, I was the family outsider. Not because I did anything wrong. Not because I was difficult or ungrateful. But because I made one choice that my family never forgave. I chose my grandmother over them. My grandmother, Sofia Ramirez, immigrated to Miami from Cuba in 1962. She was 19 years old, pregnant with my mother, carrying one suitcase and her nursing diploma. She worked double shifts at Jackson Memorial Hospital while raising my mother alone after my grandfather died in a fishing accident in 1967. By the time I was born in 1997, Grandma Sofia had retired from nursing and owned 7 rental properties in Miami, modest duplexes and small apartment buildings in Little Havana, Coconut Grove, and Coral Gables. Nothing fancy, but solid buildings that generated steady income and housed families who needed affordable housing. My mother, Carmen, hated those properties. She'd grown up poor, sharing a one-bedroom apartment with Grandma Sofia while her mother worked constantly. She'd worn secondhand clothes and worked part-time jobs through high school. She'd watched Grandma scrimp and saved to buy that first duplex in 1975. I lived in poverty, so she could buy real estate, Mom would say bitterly. While other kids had new bikes, I had rental properties I couldn't ride. Mom married my father, Roberto, in 1995. Dad came from money. His family owned a car dealership in Coral Gables. Mom finally had the comfortable life she'd always wanted. They lived in a 4-bedroom house in Pinecrest. They drove new cars every 2 years. They joined the country club. I have 2 older siblings, my sister Christina, who's 32, and my brother Miguel, who's 30. Both of them inherited Mom's resentment toward Grandma Sofia's obsession with real estate. Christina became a real estate agent, ironically, but she specialized in luxury properties, waterfront mansions, penthouses, estates worth millions. Real estate, she called it. Not Grandma's little slum buildings. Miguel went into finance. Investment banking. He wore $1,000 suits and talked about derivatives and hedge funds. Then there was me. I was different from the start. While Christina and Miguel spent weekends at the country club or shopping in Aventura, I spent Saturdays with Grandma Sofia. We'd visit her properties together. She'd show me how to inspect a building, how to talk to tenants, how to handle maintenance requests. These buildings are more than investments, she'd tell me in Spanish while we checked the plumbing in a Coral Gables duplex. They're homes. The people who live here, they trust us to keep these places safe and clean. That's a responsibility, Mija. I loved those Saturdays. Loved learning from her. Loved hearing her stories about Cuba, about starting over with nothing, about building something real with her own hands. My family saw it as a betrayal. Why do you waste time with those old buildings? Mom would ask. Christina and Miguel have real careers. Real futures. You're acting like it's still 1975. I'm learning from Grandma, I'd say. Learning what? How to be a landlord for poor people. That's not a career, Elena. That's what people do when they can't do anything else. At family dinners, the conversation always centered on Christina's latest luxury listing or Miguel's newest deal. When anyone asked about me, Mom would sigh and say, Elena helps her grandmother with her little rental properties. It's nice that she spends time with her. The tone said everything. Nice meant pointless. Little meant insignificant. Rental properties meant beneath us. Dad rarely spoke to me at all. He was proud of Christina and Miguel, embarrassed by me. But Grandma Sofia saw something different. In 2020, Grandma's health started declining. She was 77. Diabetes was affecting her kidneys. Her doctor said she needed to start planning for the future. One Sunday in March 2020, she called me to her apartment. Just me. Not Christina. Not Miguel. Not my parents. We sat at her kitchen table, the same table where she taught me to make ropa vieja and plan grocery budgets and calculate property expenses. I need to talk to you about something important, Mija, she said. She pulled out a folder. Inside were property deeds, financial statements, tenant lists. Everything related to her 7 rental properties. I'm creating an irrevocable trust, she said. All 7 properties will go into the trust. You'll be the sole beneficiary.
İster her.
Grandma, I can't. Christina and Miguel should. Christina sells mansions to rich people and looks down on my buildings, Grandma interrupted gently. Miguel counts other people's money and thinks real estate is primitive. Your mother resents every brick I ever bought.
But you?
You understand what I built. You know the value of providing good housing. You know the names of the tenants. But the family will be angry.
I know.
But this isn't about making them happy. It's about preserving what I built. She slid the documents across the table. An irrevocable trust means once it's established, it can't be changed. The properties transfer immediately. You become the beneficiary. When I die, they're yours. No hold a contest.
No arguments. No disputes.
Why not just put it in your will? Grandma smiled sadly. Because your mother will fight. Christina will hire lawyers. Miguel will claim I wasn't competent. They'll tie up the estate for years, spending money on attorneys instead of maintaining the buildings. But an irrevocable trust established while I'm healthy and sharp? That's ironclad. We met with her estate attorney, Richard Castellanos, the following week. He'd handled Grandma's legal matters for 20 years. He walked me through every detail of the trust. The Sofia Ramirez Irrevocable Trust, established March 15, 2020. Grantor, Sofia Ramirez.
Sole beneficiary, Elena Ramirez.
Assets, 7 rental properties in Miami-Dade County, with a combined appraised value of $3.2 million. The properties were legally transferred to the trust on March 20, 2020. I became the beneficiary, with full control over management decisions. The rental income, approximately $9,500 per month after expenses, began flowing to a trust account that I managed. Grandma remained in her apartment, collecting a monthly distribution from the trust to cover her living expenses. But the properties were no longer hers. They were mine. And I told no one. Not my parents. Not Christina. Not Miguel. Not my friends. I kept living in my small apartment in Kendall. Kept working my job as a social worker for Miami-Dade County. Kept driving my 2012 Toyota Camry. The rental income went into the trust account, used for property maintenance, mortgage payments, and building reserves. Meanwhile, my family continued treating me like the disappointing daughter who wasted her potential on Grandma's hobby. The first year after the trust was established was transformative. I'd sit at family dinners listening to Christina brag about her commission on a $6 million waterfront estate, while knowing I'd just approved a new roof installation on the Coconut Grove duplex. I'd watch Miguel lecture everyone about portfolio diversification while I reviewed applications for a vacant apartment in Little Havana. Grandma Sofia and I had an understanding. At family gatherings, we never mentioned the trust. She'd ask about my social work cases. I'd ask about her health. We'd share knowing looks across the table that said everything we needed to say. Christina, meanwhile, had convinced my parents that she should eventually inherit Grandma's properties. I'm a real estate professional, she told them at Christmas 2020. I can sell those buildings for top dollar, split the proceeds properly. It's the smart financial move. Mom thought this was an excellent idea. Those properties should benefit all of us. Mama worked hard. We all sacrificed. Grandma just smiled. We'll see what happens. What Christina didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the properties were already gone. Not in Grandma's estate anymore. Legally transferred to an irrevocable trust with me as the sole beneficiary. But I let Christina make her plans. Let her tell her real estate colleagues about the family portfolio she'd be inheriting. Let her calculate her future commission. I spent those years learning everything about property management. I took online courses in landlord-tenant law. I studied Miami's rental market trends. I built relationships with contractors and property managers who specialized in affordable housing. The Little Havana duplex was my first major decision. One unit had a tenant who'd been there since 1998, a retired mechanic named Roberto who paid well below market rent. Christina would have evicted him immediately to renovate and triple the rent. I took a different approach.
I visited Roberto.
Introduced myself as the new property manager. told him he could stay as long as he wanted at his current rent, with small annual increases tied to his Social Security cost of living adjustments. "Your grandmother is a good woman," he told me in Spanish. "You have her heart." That became my philosophy. Maintain the buildings beautifully. Treat tenants with dignity. Keep rents affordable but sustainable. Screen carefully, but give people chances when their stories made sense. By 2023, all 7 properties had waiting lists. Tenant turnover was nearly zero. The buildings were in better condition than they'd been in decades. And my family still had no idea. At Thanksgiving 2023, Christina announced she'd been named one of Miami's top luxury real estate agents by a prestigious magazine. My mother cried with pride. My father opened champagne. "This calls for a toast," Dad said. To Christina, who's built everything we hoped for. To Miguel, who's climbed so high in finance. And to Elena. He paused, searching for something positive. Who does important work helping people. Everyone raised their glasses. The subtext was clear. Christina and Miguel were successful. I was charitable. That night, I checked the trust account. The properties were now worth $3.8 million. I'd accumulated $185,000 in reserves from careful management. The monthly rental income had grown to $11,200 through strategic rent increases on vacant units. I was worth more than Christina's commissions and Miguel's bonuses combined. But I kept that knowledge to myself. Grandma Sofia passed away on October 12, 2025, peacefully at home, holding my hand. She was 82 years old. "You'll do the right thing, Mija," she whispered near the end. "You'll take care of the buildings. You'll take care of the people." "I promise, Abuela." And when your mother screams, when Christina threatens lawyers, when Miguel accuses you of manipulation, remember that I chose you. On purpose. Because you earned it. The funeral was on October 17th. The entire family gathered. Extended family flew in from across the country. Everyone wore black and shared memories of Grandma Sofia's strength and determination. At the reception, I overheard Christina talking to our cousin Anna. "The estate's going to be substantial," Christina said quietly. 7 rental properties in prime Miami locations. Probably worth $4 million, maybe more. I'll need to work with the estate attorney to get everything appraised and listed. Listed? Anna asked. Of course. Grandma was sentimental about those buildings, but they're sitting on valuable land. In today's market, we could sell them all, split the proceeds 3 ways, me, Miguel, Elena. Maybe Mom and Dad get a share too. Everyone benefits. Anna glanced at me across the room. What does Elena think?
Christina laughed.
Elena doesn't get a vote. She helped Grandma with maintenance. That's not the same as understanding real estate value. I'm the professional. I'll handle it. 2 weeks later, my mother called. The estate attorney wants to meet with the family, she said. Next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Richard Castellanos' office in Coral Gables. Everyone needs to be there. What's this about? I asked, though I knew exactly what it was about. Grandma's will. The property distribution. Christina's already researched comparable sales. We need to discuss the sale strategy. Wednesday, October 30th. I took the morning off work. Drove to Richard Castellanos' office. The office was exactly as I remembered, Cuban artwork on the walls, photos of Richard with various Miami mayors and commissioners, law degrees from the University of Miami. My parents arrived first. Then Christina, wearing a designer suit and carrying an iPad with property valuations. Then Miguel, looking annoyed that this was taking time away from work. Richard welcomed us into his conference room. He was in his 60s, silver hair, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Thank you all for coming," he said. "I know this is a difficult time." Sophia was a remarkable woman. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. My father nodded solemnly. Christina pulled out her iPad. "I've prepared a comprehensive analysis of the property values and optimal listing strategy, based on current market conditions." Richard held up his hand gently. "Christina, let's start with the will itself." He opened a folder and began reading. Standard provisions. Some personal jewelry to my mother. Some cash gifts to grandchildren. A donation to her church. Then he reached the section about the properties. Regarding my real estate holdings, he read, these assets were previously transferred to the Sofia Ramirez Irrevocable Trust in 2020. These properties are therefore not part of my probatable estate and are not addressed in this will. Silence. Christina's iPad slipped slightly in her hands. Miguel leaned forward. My mother's mouth opened. I'm sorry, Christina said slowly. Can you repeat that? Richard looked at her calmly. Your grandmother established an irrevocable trust in 2020. All 7 rental properties were transferred to that trust. They're not part of the estate because they were no longer her assets at the time of her death. That's impossible, my mother said. She would have told us. She told the beneficiary, Richard said. That's who needed to know. Miguel's eyes narrowed. Who's the beneficiary? Richard looked at me.
Anna.
The room exploded. That's not possible. Christina shouted, standing up so fast her chair rolled backward. I'm the real estate professional. I'm the one who understands property values. Sit down, Christina, Richard said firmly. This is fraud, Miguel announced. Grandma wasn't mentally competent in 2020. She had diabetes, kidney problems. She was fully competent, Richard interrupted. I have medical evaluations from her doctor confirming her mental clarity. She knew exactly what she was doing. My mother turned to me, her face a mixture of shock and betrayal. You knew about this? I've known since 2020, I said quietly. Grandma asked me to manage the properties. So I did. For 5 years you've been collecting rent. Christina demanded. Managing properties worth millions? And you never said anything? Grandma told me not to. She said the family would fight. She said it was better to handle everything legally and let you find out after she was gone. My father finally spoke. What properties exactly? Richard consulted his notes. The duplex on Southwest 8th Street in Little Havana. The fourplex on Grand Avenue in Coconut Grove. The triplex on Miracle Mile in Coral Gables. 2 duplexes on Calle Ocho. And 2 small apartment buildings in Coral Gables. All transferred via Irrevocable Trust, filed with Miami-Dade County on March 20th, 2020. And the value? My mother asked weakly. The properties were appraised in 2024 for estate planning purposes, Richard said. Combined value, approximately $3.8 million. My mother actually gasped. Christina's face turned red. Miguel pulled out his phone, probably to call his attorney. This is unbelievable, Dad said. 5 years. You've been lying to us for 5 years. I haven't lied about anything, I replied. You never asked if I owned property. You assumed I was exactly what I appeared to be, a social worker with a modest apartment and an old car. I never corrected your assumptions. That's the same as lying, my mother shouted. No, I said firmly. It's called privacy. It's called protecting what Grandma built. It's called following her wishes. Christina was pacing now, her real estate brain trying to process this. So you've been collecting how much rent? The properties generate approximately $11,000 per month in net rental income, Richard said. I watched them calculate. $11,000 a month. 66 months. Over $700,000. You've made $750,000, Miguel said, his voice shaking with anger. I've received rental income, I corrected. Most of it went to property maintenance, mortgage payments, capital improvements, and building reserves. The properties are worth more now than in 2020 because of the work I've done. Work, Christina shouted. You're a social worker. What do you know about managing real estate? More than you think, I said quietly. Grandma taught me. For years. While you were selling mansions to millionaires and looking down on her buildings, I was learning from her. Learning what actually matters. I want to see the trust documents, my father demanded. I want proof this is legal. Richard pulled out a thick folder. Inside was the complete irrevocable trust agreement, properly executed and notarized. Medical evaluations from Grandma's doctor confirming her mental competency in March 2020. Property appraisals. Transfer documents filed with Miami-Dade County. Grantor, Sofia Ramirez trustee, Richard Castellanos sole beneficiary, Elena Ramirez date established, March 15, 2020. My father studied the documents for a long time. Then he looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before, something between shock and grudging respect. Your grandmother cut us all out, he said. She didn't cut you out, I replied. She left you personal items, cash gifts. But the properties? Those went to the person who valued them, who understood them, who would preserve what she built instead of selling them for a quick profit. Christina slammed her hand on the table. Those properties are sitting on land worth millions. In today's market, we could sell them all for $6 or $7 million. That's what they're really worth.
To you? I said.
To Grandma, they were worth something different. They were homes, communities, a legacy of providing good housing to people who needed it. She didn't want them sold and demolished for luxury condos. She wanted them preserved. That's sentimental nonsense. Christina shouted. That's what Grandma wanted, I said firmly. And she made her choice. Miguel wasn't done. He put his phone down and looked at me with cold calculation. We're going to contest this. Undue influence. You manipulated an elderly woman. You isolated her from her family. You convinced her to disinherit her own daughter. On what grounds? Richard asked calmly. Grandma had health problems. Diabetes, kidney disease. She wasn't thinking clearly. Richard removed his glasses. Miguel, I have medical evaluations from 3 different doctors, all confirming Sofia's mental competence in 2020. I have my own notes from our meetings. She was sharp, decisive, and absolutely clear about her intentions. I have documentation showing Elena didn't isolate Sofia. Elena visited regularly, but so did Sofia's friends, her church community, her neighbors. No court will find undue influence. We'll find one that will, Christina said. I'll hire the best estate litigation attorney in Miami. Go ahead, Richard said. But I should tell you, this trust has been active for 5 years. Elena has been paying property taxes, maintaining buildings, managing tenants. She's improved the properties significantly. She's operated in good faith. No judge will overturn this. That's when Christina played her card. She pulled out her phone and showed us all a document. You're not even mentioned in the will. My sister laughed. Dad, and I get everything. All 7 Florida rentals. Everyone cheered. It was Grandma's will. The actual will that Richard had just read from. Christina was showing everyone the section about the properties being transferred to the trust. But she was reading it wrong, deliberately misreading it. See, she said triumphantly. The will says the properties go to the estate, to be divided among the family. Elena's not even mentioned. I just smiled and asked, which will are you reading? She sneered. The only one that exists. I nodded quietly and pulled out my phone. I sent one text message. 30 seconds later, the conference room door opened. A woman in her 40s walked in, carrying a briefcase. Professional suit. Confident walk. She nodded to Richard, then looked at my family. I represent the Irrevocable Trust established in 2020, she said. My name is Patricia Morales. I'm the trust administrator who works with Mr. Castellanos. All 7 properties were transferred to. Then Miguel started screaming. Because there's another trust? There's a secret trust we didn't know about. Patricia opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick bound document. The complete trust agreement. Every page. Every signature. Every transfer document. This isn't a secret, she said calmly. It's been filed with Miami-Dade County for 5 years. It's a matter of public record. Anyone could have searched for it. Your grandmother established this trust legally, properly, and with full transparency to the authorities. The only secret was that your family never thought to look. She laid out the evidence. The trust agreement, signed by Grandma Sofia and notarized by 2 witnesses. Medical evaluations showing Grandma's perfect mental competency. Property transfer documents filed with the county. Tax returns showing the trust's income for 5 years. Maintenance records showing Elena's careful management. Your grandmother didn't just transfer the properties, Patricia continued. She transferred them with specific instructions. The buildings must remain as affordable rental housing. They cannot be sold for development. They cannot be demolished. They must be maintained to provide good housing for working families. Elena agreed to these terms. That's why she was chosen. Christina's face was pale now. That means we can never sell them? Elena can never sell them, Patricia corrected. Not while the trust exists. And the trust exists in perpetuity, with provisions for Elena's eventual heirs to continue the mission. My mother was crying. Mama left us nothing. After everything. After the sacrifices. Nothing. She left you her jewelry, I said quietly. Her personal items. Cash gifts. Her blessing. But the properties? Those were never yours to claim. You resented them your entire life. You resented Grandma for choosing them over giving you a wealthier childhood. She knew that. That's why she gave them to someone who valued them. Miguel stood up. I'm calling my attorney right now. We're going to fight this. Go ahead, Richard said. But while you're doing that, you should know something else. Everyone looked at him. Sophia hired a forensic accountant in 2023 to review some irregularities she noticed. Christina, have you been showing the properties to potential buyers? The room went completely silent. Christina's face changed. What? In 2023 and 2024, several real estate investors reported that someone claiming to represent the family estate had shown them the properties and discussed potential sales. These investors were told the buildings would be available soon and that the family was preparing to liquidate the portfolio. Patricia pulled out another folder. Documentation. Emails from Christina's work account to real estate investors. Photos she'd taken of the properties. Market analyses she'd prepared. You were pre-selling Grandma's properties, I said, the realization hitting me. Before she even died. You were lining up buyers. Christina sat down heavily. I was just preparing. Being proactive. I'm a real estate professional. It's what I do. It's what you did with properties you didn't own, Richard said. Properties that were in an irrevocable trust. Properties that had already been transferred to Elena. You misrepresented your authority to at least 6 different investors. That's fraud, Miguel said quietly, looking at his sister with shock. It's worse than that, Patricia said. One of those investors has filed a complaint with the Florida Real Estate Commission. Christina told him she had exclusive authority to sell the properties. She accepted a $10,000 consulting fee to prepare a development proposal. That money needs to be returned. My mother started crying harder. My father looked like he might be sick. I didn't know, Christina said, her voice shaking. I thought I was going to inherit. I thought I was just getting a head start. You thought wrong, I said. And you charged someone $10,000 for authority you never had. Richard laid out all the evidence. The investor communications. The consulting agreement. The development proposals Christina had commissioned. She'd spent 2 years preparing to profit from Grandma's death, from properties she never owned. What do you want to do? Richard asked me. I looked at Christina. At my parents. At this family that had dismissed me for so long. I want the $10,000 returned to that investor immediately, I said. I want Christina to stop representing herself as having any authority over the properties. And I want everyone in this room to understand something clearly. These buildings are mine. Legally, ethically, permanently mine. There will be no sale. No development. No demolition. They will remain as affordable housing. Forever. And if we fight this? Miguel asked quietly. Then you'll lose, Richard said. And you'll spend tens of thousands on legal fees. And you'll destroy what's left of this family. Is that what you want? Miguel looked at Christina. At our parents. At the evidence spread across the table. No, he said finally. The meeting ended shortly after that. Christina left first, her phone already out, probably calling the investor to arrange the refund. Miguel followed, without saying goodbye. My parents stayed. We should have known, my mother said softly. The way Mama looked at you. The way she smiled when you talked about the buildings. We should have known. You didn't want to know, I said. You wanted to believe your version of the story. Where Christina was the successful real estate daughter. Where Miguel was the brilliant finance son. Where I was the one who wasted my potential helping grandma with her little hobby. My father cleared his throat. What you've done with those properties, managing them for 5 years, that takes real skill. Yes, I said. It does. Can we have a relationship going forward? My mother asked. That depends, I said. Can you accept that I own $3.8 million in real estate? That I generate $11,000 a month in rental income? That I built something real while you were embarrassed by me? They both looked uncomfortable. We were wrong, my father admitted. We measured success wrong. We saw Christina's luxury listings and Miguel's finance career, and we thought those were the only paths worth taking. And now? I asked. Now we see what you built, my mother said. And it's what Mama wanted. That's hard to accept. But it's true. I stood up. I need time. This isn't something I can forgive immediately. You spent 28 years making me feel small. Making me feel like my choices were wrong. Like Grandma's work was beneath us. That doesn't go away just because you finally see the truth. We understand, my father said. They left. Richard and Patricia stayed behind. You handled that beautifully, Patricia said. I've been preparing for 5 years, I replied. Grandma warned me it would be ugly. Richard smiled. She knew her family well. That's why she made sure everything was ironclad. That's why she chose you. What happens with Christina's complaint? I asked. The investor will file his complaint with the real estate commission, Patricia said. Christina will likely face disciplinary action. Possibly a license suspension. She misrepresented her authority and accepted money for services she couldn't provide. That's serious. I don't want to destroy her career, I said. You're not destroying anything, Richard said gently. She did that herself. You're just protecting what Sophia built. Patricia handed me an envelope. Your grandmother left this for you. She asked me to give it to you after the family knew the truth. I opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter.
Mia.
If you're reading this, you've told the family about the trust. I'm sorry I couldn't be there to hold your hand. I know your mother is hurt. I know Christina is angry. I know Miguel thinks you manipulated me. Let them think what they want. You, and I know the truth. I chose you because you understood something the others never learned. Real wealth isn't about luxury listings or investment accounts. It's about providing good homes to people who need them. It's about maintaining buildings that will shelter families for generations. It's about legacy. Your mother resented my choices. Christina saw my buildings as money to extract. Miguel saw them as primitive investments. But you saw them as I did. As homes. As communities. As purpose. Take care of the buildings, Mija. Take care of the tenants. Keep doing what you've been doing. And don't let anyone make you feel guilty for being chosen. I'm proud of you. I always was.
Con amor, Abuela Sofía.
I read it 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Christina returned the $10,000 consulting fee within a week. The Florida Real Estate Commission suspended her license for 6 months. She had to complete additional ethics training before reinstatement. Her career recovered eventually, but she never reached the same level of success. The scandal damaged her reputation in Miami's luxury real estate market. Miguel never contested the trust. He ran the numbers and realized the legal fees would cost more than any potential settlement. My parents called in December. They wanted to see the properties, to understand what Grandma had built. I took them on a tour, showed them every building, introduced them to some of the long-term tenants. Let them see the careful maintenance, the happy residents, the communities that Grandma's buildings supported. This is real, my father said quietly, standing in the courtyard of the Coral Gables apartment building. This is actually beautiful. My mother was crying. Mama was right. About all of it. About you. We started having dinner once a month. Sometimes it was awkward. Sometimes they slipped back into old patterns. But they were trying. As for the properties, I've continued Grandma's approach, maintaining them beautifully, keeping them affordable, providing good housing to families who need it. In March 2026, I used the trust reserves to buy an eighth property, a small triplex in Little Havana. 3 families who'd been priced out of the rental market found homes there. I'm following in Grandma Sophia's footsteps, building slowly, building well, building for purpose instead of profit. Roberto, the retired mechanic in the Little Havana duplex, turned 75 this year. His rent is still affordable. His apartment is immaculate.
He has a home for life.
Your grandmother would be proud, he told me in Spanish. That means more than any family approval ever could. I still work as a social worker. I still drive the same Toyota Camry. I still live in my modest apartment. Because Grandma Sophia was right about everything. Real wealth isn't about looking successful. It's about building assets that serve people. It's about creating homes that last. It's about making choices that align with your values, even when other people don't understand them. Christina learned that lesson the hard way. My parents are slowly learning it too. But I learned it years ago, sitting at Grandma's kitchen table, signing trust documents that would change everything. I learned that being underestimated is sometimes a gift. That building quietly is more powerful than announcing loudly. That the people who dismiss you today might finally see you tomorrow. And that the best validation isn't proving them wrong, it's knowing you were right all along. I own $3.8 million in Florida real estate. My family thought I was the disappointment who wasted her potential. They were wrong. And now they know it.